Hello everyone, Doug King here doing my Chapter 13 current events video. This week's topic was EMS, and I chose to do this video on an article that was published in the Tampa Bay Times on March 27th of this year, so it was actually posted this morning. The article has to do with the school shooting at Parkland High School and how the split second decision of the paramedic on scene saved this girl's life potentially. So the story is that they have a 17-year-old female. There's already 17 people that were killed on scene. The female was initially unresponsive, but was awoken with a sternal rub. She did have a gunshot wound to the chest, and the lieutenant that came upon her had to make a decision between transporting this female to a trauma center, which was about 30 miles away, or to a urgent care, which was about 12 miles away. So there was some concern that her blood pressure was dropping. She had a collapsed lung, and they were concerned that she might not make it to the trauma center, so they were debating whether to transport her to the much closer urgent care center where she could be stabilized and then possibly flown to this trauma center. But after a sternal rub, the patient did wake up and was able to tell her how old she was. That's when they made the decision to transport her to the trauma center, which turned out to be a good choice for her because she did make a full recovery. This is a dilemma that I'm sure many departments come into. Here in Akron, we're pretty blessed that we actually have two level 1 trauma centers in our city, as well as a level 1 pediatric trauma center in Children's Hospital. So we have two level 1 adult trauma centers and a pediatric hospital. So there's really no problem. We don't need to make those kind of decisions. Anywhere you go within the city, you're probably within no more 10 minutes at the most from a level 1 trauma center. So not something we really need to deal with too much here in the city of Akron. But before I got on Akron, I did work at a rural department that was about 25 minutes from a level 1 trauma center in the city of Akron. But it had some much closer, smaller hospitals that were not capable. They were lower level trauma centers that weren't capable of handling major traumas. And one time when I was working there, we had a very similar situation. We had a male that had shot himself in the chest, and we weren't even sure that he was alive. We found him face down in the backyard. We rolled him over, and when we rolled him over, we could see that he was breathing and making some groaning noises, although he didn't respond much. And there was a debate held there on scene fairly quickly between me and one of the captains. The captain felt that he wasn't going to make it to the trauma center and that we needed to transport him to a closest facility, which was about 10 minutes. So we're talking about the difference between about a 15-minute difference transport time. About 10 minutes to the smaller hospital, 25 minutes to the trauma center. Once we got him into the ambulance and did some vitals, his vitals were actually fairly stable, and I made the case that he needed to go to the trauma center at this point, because even if he did expire en route, then he's better off being at the trauma center than he is at the hospital that can't do surgery. The only thing that's going to be able to save this guy's life at this point is surgery. So we did wind up transporting to the trauma center, and he made the transport and actually made a full recovery. They were able to do surgery. He had a portion of his lung removed, some of his colon. Actually did have some damage to his heart, but they were able to save his life, and he made a full recovery. So I can see how this could potentially turn into a legal issue, especially if you make the choice to go to a lower level hospital and then he does wind up dying. Let's say he makes the trip alive to the lower level hospital and then he winds up dying there before he can make it to a trauma center. You better have very thoroughly documented why you made the choice not to transport to the trauma center and why you transported to the local hospital. So I'm not saying you should never do it, because there are some reasons I think you should probably transport to the closest hospital. But if that's the case, you better be able to justify why you went to that closest hospital, you better document thoroughly, because I can see this being a potential problem if the patient does wind up dying. Then you're going to really be called upon to justify why you didn't go to the level 1 trauma center. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Thanks.